is Desi L. Campbell, and I'm your host for Let's Talk Genealogy. On today's show, I will host four different Campbell families from four different areas in North and South Carolina. Because of Ancestry DNA, we have been able to reunite these families from over 200 years later. Today, our guests include Ladrine Campbell, Bucky Carmichael, Gail Henson, Vonda McCrae, Mary Campbell, Patrick Bowens, Denise Phillips, Candace Shaw, and Terry Taylor. We will now begin our show with the Dillard County, South Carolina Campbells.
Okay, now Bonnie Campbell, he is my earliest person that I was able to research. Bonnie Campbell actually was born in 1813. He died in 1917. And I'm just going to read a little article that the Dillard newspaper, what they did, they published an article. This was for their centennial year, and this was published in 1917, in which they came and interviewed Bonnie, and he talked about how slavery, to me, I thought it was really interesting, that it was one of the happiest times of his life, okay? And he talked about how it was so remarkable, again, that he lived to see 4 generations of his own family. Now, his age is not exactly known, but it is thought to be, when he died, he was 104 years old, 104 years old. Actually, Bonnie was married twice. When I first looked in the 1970 census, Bonnie was married to a Cola Page.
Saw that.
Exactly. Huh? I'm sorry?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. And he married her, it looked like in 1830. Then Bonnie, again, he married a Martha Page, and he married her.
My third grade aunt.
Exactly. There you go. And he married her in 1877. Now, through Cola, Bonnie had 11 children. Martha, he had 13.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
Okay, now when I say that about Bonnie, just by going with history and that type of thing, and just the history of our ancestors, to me, Bonnie had to fathered a lot of children. Okay, now I do have actually all of the names of the 24 children. I was not married to my grandmother, my great-great-grandmother. My ancestors, including Bonnie, of course, he settled near Dillard, South Carolina. Dillard, South Carolina, near Floridale. And although that don't know, Floridale, Dillard, of course, is just right over the North Carolina line, straight down 95, make a little turn down 41, Highway 41 runs you right into Latta, Floridale area. The plantation was owned by a Roberts family. The Roberts family. And it seemed to be that Bonnie, he settled near the Manning Township, which is one of the, I'm sorry, Harold?
No, that's what he had Manning, yeah.
Right, in the Manning Township. And I'm sorry?
Buck Swamp Road.
Buck Swamp Road, exactly.
Yeah, I just want to, again, that's Barney and Martha happens to be my major tie-in to the Campbell family, because all those Campbells are also Pages as well. And Martha was my great grandmother's aunt, Jenny Page, whose father was Anthony Page, who was Martha's brother. So, and Jenny married my great grandfather, William Reeves. Which in turn began the whole slew of descendants of William Reeves. So that branch of the Reeves family, we're also Pages. So our reunion is a combination of Reed / Jenny Page, which happens to be, again, Barney and Martha's great niece.
Well, I go up a little bit further. Amos and Laura, and they had Barney. Okay,
Oh.
Barney married Martha Page Campbell.
Mhm.
I'm a direct line from that line. But John Campbell and Ida Campbell are my great grandparents. Ophelia Campbell and Eli are my grandparents. My mother is Dorothy Jameson and father is Johnny Jameson. There are 6 children in our line. With Ophelia and Eli, they had 12 children, had large families. I know one set, we got 32 first cousins, and they all natural. From one woman, got 32 kids.
Whoa.
The dream, when we was down at the family reunion the last time, they came to see us, and they also went out to the cemetery.
Yes.
Him and his wife had, you know what I'm talking about, right? They got 32 sisters and brothers.
Absolutely.
I've been searching for my family since I think I was about 12 years old. I started putting together of what I knew, and I would ask my parents, you know, who their mother and father was, who their sisters and brothers were. And I was fortunate to meet basically all of my uncles, which there were 9 boys and 3 girls. The oldest one, Harvey, passed before I met him, but I met everybody else. Now I only have my Uncle Will as an uncle, and Elizabeth and Aunt Ethel, which was Uncle Leval's wife. Uncle Will was fortunate, and he came down to the family reunion and enjoyed it. We had a really good time. This was like our second time coming, and we brought at least 10 people with us when we came the last time. Uncle Leval's descendants came with us the last time, and which would be Uncle Will's brother's kids.
You ever talk about this guy? His name was Marty Grant. And how, I don't know, have you ever heard of him? He wrote this book about the camels that was from Marion County. Have you ever heard of him, Hal?
Yes.
His name was Marty Grant. So again, he was a descendant, of course, from the Campbell family. He goes all the way back to his great grandfather. He researched him. His name was John Campbell.
Yeah,
he was born in 1742.
A good place to find a lot of these documents is on Fold 3.
Oh, Fold 3.
FOLD3. You got to pay. It's a paid subscription.
Right.
It's
okay.
well worth it.
It's well worth it, man. You can find gold there.
Oh my goodness, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's on Ancestry too. I've seen it advertised.
Yeah.
Okay.
I found so many slave documents on my Reeves, Owens, and Gerald side of my family. I found tons of stuff, lawsuits and everything else.
And also, has anybody found any United States colored troops? Because if you find a pension, you hit gold.
Come on now.
No, because I thought that I didn't find a lot of people going to United States colored troops just recently. I found a whole bunch of them from the Dillon area went up and enlisted in Raleigh.
As you mentioned earlier, one of the things that you really have to do is study the white folks. You got to really know their history, their families, who they married, and all that kind of stuff, because they were movement around. You could be on. I just use, because this is what I found from my family. You could be on the Jones place. Jones' daughter marries John Smith.
Yep.
And Jones decides to give as a gift 4 of his slaves to his wife.
Exactly.
To his daughter, as a wedding present.
Mm-hmm.
Now they went from being Joneses, now they own the Smith place.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gracious.
Now they flex. Just because they're on the same plantation with the same name, they make them relatives.
So when I did the DNA test, it says that the line that I come from is from Dillon, South Carolina. You have Garfield Campbell, you have Maury Campbell, you have, William Campbell is like the highest. I think his is like 797 cms.
Family is that you know, as I said to a lot of the Campbells, that you guys are also, a lot of you are also pages, you know, so, you know, and that's really my connection. And I've known all my life from my mother that the Campbells was part of our family. And some of our cousins used to own a club in Dillon, Jimmy and Bubba Campbell's place.
Okay, I have met an African cousin, and she is on my father's side, and I would love for her to be related to the people in Dillon, because she's such a nice person. She's from Ivory Coast, from the Senegal people, and she's so excited to find out that she still has connections to American roots, and I'm excited that I still have a drop of her in me, so it's very exciting. That's the Senegal people in Ivory Coast.
Yes, for me, this is so exciting, more exciting than working from home. Gives me a reason now to work from home. I stay on Ancestry as much as I can in order to try to put the pieces together, but sometimes it gets a little difficult. I got my start, I would say, at the 1920s, because they say start where you know and then work your way backwards. When I found my family on the 1920s, I did have some help in research, and I had to go to the archives. And I was told by one of the archivists, your family lived on Campbell Road. Now, as a child, my mother would tell me she remembers it being 2 sets of Campbells, and one lived on the other side of the tracks. When we go down there, we definitely cross 2 sets of tracks to get to the church. Finding, let's see, I found my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and then I was like, well, what happened to her? She went and lived with Uncle Andrew, so she was still alive. Mm-hmm. But the census have her different places, right? So me trying to figure out, when I didn't see her, I thought she passed, but she didn't. She just moved with another family member. Learning how to research is very important to me. I'm glad that we have the time to be able to share and do this together to make it a little bit easier. And then I want to see us all in a photo.
With the Campbells itself, and talk briefly about the church, what was so interesting, I love about Bonnie and his descendants, they founded the church. They founded St. Paul AME Church. Again, that's in Floridale. And they built the church in the center of Floridale. Floridale back in the, let's say the 1900s, 1910s, 20s, that type of thing. It was owned by, the whole community was owned by Campbells, the Campbell's family. They actually built the church, St. Paul, in the center of Floridale, where it was a center, they built it there. Even now, that church is totally run by descendants of Bonnie Campbell. Paul, it sits right there. It sits right in the middle of Floridale. And no less than a mile up the road, which is Buck Swamp Road, that's where the actual cemetery is actually there. Now, Bonnie, it shows history that for this, the same land that the cemetery sits in, that's where he lived there, and his family. So